Hey y'all,
What's up, y'all?
I'm Elise,
No, I'm Will.
and this is Team
Team
Tatum.
Tatum. Well, we are back with another 1001 movies you must watch before you die movie review, 2020 edition. This time it's 1959's North by Northwest, an Alfred Hitchcock joint. It's starring Cary Grant and Eva Marie Saint, and in a nutshell, it's about a businessman who gets mistaken as a secret agent who's found out some information about a villain, and the villain's like,
Kill this man.
yeah. And he's like, I ain't the guy. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a regular businessman. And, you know, comedy, thrills, murder, all that ensues. So,
Chaos reigns.
Chaos reigns.
so this is our second Alfred Hitchcock movie. First was Psycho. Well, on this list, we've seen other Hitchcock movies before. But yeah, second on the list. So first repeat of a director that we're aware of anyway. So had you heard of North by Northwest
Yeah,
before this?
yes.
Same. I didn't know what it was about, but I had heard of the movie before, and I knew it was a Hitchcock movie.
And there's a restaurant here by that name.
Uh, but yeah, so basically, my man Cary Grant is minding his business, has a little lunch date to go have drinks with some clients or friends, whatever. And these two dudes show up, kidnap him, don't tell him nothing, as most kidnappers do. Bring him to this big fancy mansion, and it's a dude that lives there. And he's like, "I know who you are. You know who I am, and got to get rid of you." And he's like, "What are you talking about?"
I have no idea who you are,
Right.
and you clearly don't know who I am.
And this is the dumb part. He was like, "Oh, you're definitely." He thinks he's a guy named George Kaplan. This is spoiler territory, by the way.
Warning, spoilers ahead.
So he thinks he's a man named George Kaplan, and he's like, "Oh, well, you checked into this hotel at this time. You did this at this time." I was like, "You reading off an itinerary?
Right.
That don't mean I'm
You're
him,
saying what George Kaplan did.
right? Like you got some
Has
pictures
nothing to
of
do with it
me."
being me, baby.
Because the first thing he says, he's like, "Oh, you're taller than I expected you to be." And then we find out later in the movie that George Kaplan is shorter because he finds
His suit.
and his suit doesn't fit on him, like it's too small or whatever. But all the evidence that he's bringing out was just like, that don't prove that I'm George Kaplan. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, you could stand anybody in front of him. He could read the same thing and say that they were that person.
Right? Like none of it meant anything. So they, instead of just like shooting him or slitting his throat or whatever, getting rid of him, they decide to give this dude an entire bottle of bourbon and
In
then
one go.
take him to this car, and it's gonna make it look like he was drunk and ran off the side of the road, like it's a curvy road going off into a cliff. And he sobers up just enough. Like he's not sober, but
He saw what was going
he saw
down,
what was going on. And like got away from him, and was one of the funniest escapes,
Drunken getaways.
drunken getaways ever. But it was also like, man, the looks he was giving and the shots that Hitchcock was doing to show the road. I was like, that show be how I look like when I'm sleepy on the road. When we're driving home, because it's 8 hours. When we're driving home after like 5, I start seeing like double.
What did he say?
And I got to pull over and take a nap. Uh, but yeah, so that begins his like escape from old boy. What you got?
Well, what he said so far. What happens after that? He's running from them, and then he starts chasing after them. Once he sees what's going down, he's like, "No, I'm not this man, and now I need my lick back."
Ooh, wait, no, hold up. So he does get pulled over for reckless driving. They arrest him, and all they know is he's drunk. And so he's trying to drunkenly tell them what happened to him. Fast forward to like the next day or next couple of days or whatever, he's like, "I'll prove it," and takes them to the house. And the maid lets him in. He goes to the room. He's like, "This is the room I was kept in." And they were like, "Okay." And he was like, "And this is where the couch that they threw me onto and forced me to drink all that bourbon. Here's the stains from the bourbon." But then he looks at the couch cushion, no stains.
Clean.
And then he's like, "Well, here's the liquor cabinet. This is where they got all the liquor from." And he opens up the liquor cabinet, and it's a bunch of books or whatever. And he did a bunch of other stuff. And me and Elise watching was like, none of this is proven that your evidence is about as solid as the bad guy's evidence that you're this secret agent that they think you are.
Like, even if the stuff was there, he could have just been at the party that they had and got drunk there. Right. So it didn't prove that they got him drunk and did the stuff that he said that they did. But either way, it wasn't working for him anyway, so it didn't even matter.
Also, his mama's trash.
I almost forgot about her.
Usually in the movies, the mama's like, "No matter what, my baby didn't do it.
My baby is innocent."
She was just like, "Lock that fool up."
Right.
She did not care about him whatsoever. She was making comments out of pocket. It was like, "Mama, who are you trying to get me arrested?
Like, killed?
Like, whose side are you on?" But yeah, the goons were super dedicated. They stayed on that man like white on rice. Yeah, if I'm Cary Grant, I'm not fooling with them. But he was just like Elise was saying, he was like, "I gotta prove my innocence." It's like, no, you don't.
All right, you could have just gone about your life.
No,
at one point he couldn't go on about his life because the bad guy was pretending to be somebody else at the UN, and so I forgot the full name. Roger
Thornhill.
Yeah. So Roger, he went to the UN looking for him,
Mr. Lester Townsend.
And he came down. The real person came down. He was like, you know who I'm looking for?" He was like, "Well, I'm Lester Townsend, so I don't know what to tell you." And while they were talking, one of the goons threw a knife. He had the best aim, the fastest throw.
Right, he threw them as like when they show like stereotypical Africans shooting darts with a.
Yeah, I thought that he got hit by a dart at first.
That's what it made it seem like.
Yeah.
But it was a knife, big old knife too.
Threw that knife so fast, hit him right in the middle of the back. And as typical movie people do, the man was falling down, dying. They in a room full of people, by the way. They're not by themselves. It is a lobby
in the UN
full of people in the general council building or something like that, where everybody gathers, basically.
Right.
And so he falling down, dying, and Roger, aka Cary, grabs the knife, but how he grabs it, it looks like he's putting it in his back instead of taking it out his back, but he shouldn't have touched it in the first place.
They always touch the knife.
Everybody touches the murder weapon in every movie for whatever reason.
Hate it.
And then there was a photographer down there already taking pictures of people, so he turned right around and was like...
So Cary like front page like this with the knife, stabbing motion in the hand. That reporter was on it.
Open and shut case, Johnson.
Yeah.
Oh, a photographer.
And so, yeah, they had a very crisp photo of his face. And they knew his name because he gave them his fake name, I think.
At the UN. Yeah, but the cops already knew.
They had his face, so it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So he was on the run at this point. Because people were after him, the police were after him. Whenever somebody recognized him, they called the police. Like, everybody was snitching in this movie.
Right, like they had news travel. Like it was a cash reward or something. It wasn't even a reward to turn this man in. They were just like, "One moment, please." Yeah, he right over here. If he just come right now, you can get him. Like so many people tried to turn him in, but he wasn't helping his case. 90% of this movie, he wore this blue suit or gray suit, whatever color it was. Never changed clothes until like the third act.
All I got is what I got
of the movie. So like, if people have this front page picture of you, you've seen yourself in the newspaper. Go change clothes. The best he did was put some shades on
Yeah.
or whatever, and then was acting super suspicious.
All right.
Which had people calling the cops on him. But yeah, so he eventually runs into Eva's character. Her name is
Eva. The character is Eva.
her character's name is Eva. So tidbit about her. Apparently, Alfred Hitchcock is like super dedicated to his movies. So I think I said in the Psycho review that something was up with the wardrobe with
Main woman.
yeah, what the woman name is?
Could not tell you.
No,
Whatchamacallit, mama?
yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis' mom. That's what I was trying to think of. Jamie Lee Curtis' name. Brenda Lee. I don't know. Anyway,
I don't think Lee.
that ain't her name. But irrelevant. In this movie, whatever wardrobe the people picked out for her, he was like trash, and took her to Bergdorf and just like buy whatever you want, like get a whole new set. So everything she was wearing, like she picked out or whatever. And
Bergdorf.
but apparently he does that quite often, where he just like the movie studio, y'all decisions trash.
All right.
Gone over here. But yeah, so she the femme fatale. She's the Bond girl basically. So this movie apparently inspired the Bond films, allegedly. Cause you got the lady, you got the Bond lady, you got the going to different areas, the flashy scenes and all of that. The spy who's there was some really good like when we met the real Lester Townsend. Like there was a lot of stuff we were like, oh, we thought that was the real Lester Townsend. Like why would we think that wasn't him? Like it was a lot of good. It was a good spy flick. But yeah, so he meets Eva's character, and she's basically hiding him from the cops and from the bad guys and whatnot. And then, he's still on the run and all that. But a lot of the decisions he made, I'm like, you should have got caught quite a bit. Like they did some good stuff, but most of the good stuff was Eva and not him. He made a lot of dumb decisions.
I've never been a criminal before. It's my first day.
Tidbit, we're not talking about this at all, but the right hand man to Vanderbilt is the guy's real name, the bad guy's real name. The right hand man,
Van Damme.
Van Damme, yeah, Van Damme. You're right, Van Damme, not Vanderbilt. The guy that we found was the rich man from Baps. Elise was like, man, I know that guy. He looks familiar. And she was like, I know he's got gray hair. Like we saw him when he was old. And I thought he was a dude from Phantasm. And she looked him up, and it wound up being the rich guy from Baps. So that's hilarious. But turns out they almost ran into some legal issues, not legal issues, but some censorship issues where he was going to have to get taken out of the movie because he specifically played him as a gay man.
Oh, that's why he said his women's intuition.
That's why he said my women's intuition. He said he did it subtly. He didn't look, but he was basically in love with Van. What's the boy name? Van Damme.
How do you not know Van Damme?
Because anyway, I only know one Van Damme.
You know
and
two, actually.
Jean-Claude.
And you know Rob Van Damme. So you don't.
All right. Shout out to the Frog Splash. Anyway, so he subtly did it, but some people like caught on, and they were like, we might have to give you a high rating on this because you got to remember it's 1959.
No, I'm just saying how I didn't catch on at all.
I didn't catch on at all either. But
so, like when we were watching it, and he said this line, he was like, "Just call it a woman's intuition." I was like, "That ain't how a woman's intuition works."
She did.
Because I thought he was saying, because he was talking about the woman when he said it. I was like, it's not your intuition of a woman. It's a woman having the intuition.
He said, joke's on you. I was talking about my woman's intuition.
The grandma was the baby once again.
But yeah, because apparently the play that Alfred Hitchcock picked him up at, like found out who he was and was like, I'm gonna put you in a movie. He
Mhm.
played a super macho guy.
Hmm.
And
I
so
did not see that.
he wanted to do right. I can't see you playing a super macho guy,
Mm.
but he wanted to do a 180 of that, and so
Mhm.
that's what he did. And that was wild for like 1959.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was funny, that little tidbit
Mhm.
about him. But it makes sense how like protective he was of Van Damme.
I thought just because it was his job. Because we've watched other movies recently where we were like, "Are you in love with this man? Like, why are you so jealous?" And anyway, I never knew.
Never knew.
Oh, I never knew.
Also looking up on IMDb. So I look up if this is your first time watching one of our videos. I like to look up on IMDb just random tidbits of trivia and whatnot on a movie. I like that. And so there's a lot of familiar faces in this movie. So another one was his lawyer. Remember, I was like, I know that dude. I've seen him in a lot of stuff. Like I remember watching him on a TV show.
Mhm.
That's the boss from Get Smart.
I didn't watch a lot of Get
Okay,
Smart.
so I used
I
to
only
watch the
knew
mess
the
out of Get
main
Smart.
man. Like that's the only face I can remember off the
I
top of my
I
head.
knew I knew him, and yeah, it's the boss from Get Smart. So he's in there. Apologize, I don't know that man's name.
Sorry to this man.
And it was somebody else, but I can't think of it.
Did you find out who Van Damme was? Because he looked really familiar to me.
No,
Oh,
I didn't. Sorry. Going back to the UN, Hitchcock did a dope shot where it was like an aerial view of the parking lot, and it looked like a was like a toy set. Like it didn't. I don't. It looked cool. It didn't look bad, but it looked like a miniature set. Also, they did not shoot in the UN because they were not allowed to shoot in the UN. They were allowed to go in there
type stuff.
and look and take some quick photos, and then they recreated the set. So that wasn't a real UN. And then fast forward when they get to South Dakota, when you said, I wonder how they did the set, like I want to know how they did the set where they're in the trees.
Mhm.
This fool imported 100 of whatever those trees are called.
Pine. Those are pine trees.
Whatever. And had them like put on a sound stage
That's interesting.
just for that scene. And that scene was like 5 minutes long, but he had them imported in. And they wanted him to cut it. So a couple things happened with the movie, money wise. They wanted him to cut that scene because they were like, "That's an unnecessary scene, and we don't want to pay for all of this trees." But somehow or another, he had in his contract that he gets all artistic approval. So he was like, "Sucks for you. My word is law." So they got to do it.
Read it and weep.
And then another time, so the movie's like 3 hours long. Yeah, but it didn't seem like 3 hours long. But they wanted him to cut it so that it would be under 2. And he was like, also in my contract, I don't gotta listen to you about that. So he was like, not cutting that. He cut 8 seconds.
Oh,
he cut 8 seconds from the movie.
Just to be petty.
Right, just to be petty. Because it's on record like how many feet of film that he cut and how many feet he cut equaled out to like 8 seconds. So it was like, why'd you even cut that? Just to be petty. Alfred Hitchcock's a petty dude. Yeah. I love it.
This is the second movie we've watched in a row about them wanting somebody to cut the film down to meet their standards of what they think that the audience is gonna like. And in the last one, it did not work out too well for them.
Did not. It did not. Yeah, we saw his cameo. His cameo was in the very beginning as a guy trying to get on the bus. I like that. I don't know if other people appreciate like director trademarks. I love looking out for Hitchcock and his movies. And
I like looking for M. Night Shyamalan, but people be hating on him too.
No, I like looking
People
for
be
him.
hating on him.
No, people be hating on him. So, but I like when directors have trademarks. So, you know, Hitchcock and
Stanley.
Shyamalan both put themselves.
Stanley.
He's not a director though.
It's Stanley.
Okay, my bad. They both put themselves in their movies. You got Tarantino, who does shots of feet, the trunk shot, and the red apple cigarettes are always, well, not always, but you know, those things you can look out in his movies. Yeah, I'll go down the list of people who do stuff, but I like that type of thing. And yeah, going back to the actual movie, so it all culminates at the end in Mount Rushmore, and also they couldn't film in Mount Rushmore, so that's a recreation that
It
they
was
did.
clearly a recreation on that part. Well, it was good. It didn't look bad, but there was this one scene I was like, ooh, they could have made that piece better. Where they were looking at the bad guy in the distance and were like, look, look. And it's like, you know, old cartoons where the whole thing is drawn in and just that one part that's going to move is brighter than the rest of it. That's how it was in the
Yeah.
movie.
Also, tidbit at Mount Rushmore,
Mhm.
well, you know, the park, whatever the park that is at, they sell copies of North by Northwest in the gift shop.
That's cool.
And the display thing is like where you're looking out the window
Yeah.
at the Mount Rushmore.
So, as seen on North by
North by
Northwest.
Northwest.
Also, shout out to South by Southwest. Oh, it's gonna get cut out.
So when they were filming the scene where she falls
Mm-hmm.
and hurts her arm, legit fell. Hurt her arm. Her reaction and Cary Grant's like, oh my god, like that's 100% left on the table of what actually happened. The rest of it was, you know, acted out on stage. But I thought
So
that was
maybe
funny.
it was her bone sticking.
I thought her bone was sticking out her arm when she fell. I was like, oh my god! I thought it showed her bones like sticking out, but it didn't. It was just the way she was like holding it. I guess because it really hurt. She was holding it real tight, and she was already a skinny woman, so it was more prominent right there. But that was funny. Yeah, I said murder, but I don't think anyone actually died.
The UN
No way.
man died.
Yeah, the bad guy did die real bad. Oh yeah, the
That
UN
man
did. Yeah,
fell off
UN.
the cliff.
Okay, some people did die. 3 deaths.
2 men fell off the cliff.
No. So the 2 bad
Well,
guys.
not cliff, Mount Rushmore.
The 2 bad guys died at Mount Rushmore. The UN guy died with a knife in the back. We forgot about the plane.
Oh yeah.
The crop duster flying into the oil tank.
There was a very iconic scene from this movie where he's running from this crop duster. He's told to meet the real George out in the middle of nowhere at a bus stop that shouldn't have a bus stop there, but it was people catching it, so I guess it should. But he was told to meet the real George out there to get all this straightened out, and he saw a man come and get dropped off at the bus stop, and he was on the other side of the street though, so he was like trying to make eye contact with him, like, you looking for me? So he ran across the street. He was like, are you meeting somebody here? He's like, no, waiting on the bus. Comes every so and so pretty regularly. And he's like, oh, type stuff. He was like, how's it going?
And then the bus come, and the dude get on it, look at him like, are you getting on the bus?
No, before then though, it was a crop duster, and the guy was like, that crop duster is dusting a field with no crops. He was like, what? He's like, ain't no crops over there. And he looked, and he's like, interesting. Then the bus came, and the man got on the bus. And as soon as that bus left, crop duster went to work, coming down, trying to shoot him. Like, at first we thought it was just trying to hit him, but then they pulled out the so he running in cornfields and stuff, trying to run and hide from the plane, which is hard to do, to hide from a plane because, you know, they're aerial. They can see where you hiding.
Right. And you in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
so it's like, where you hiding at?
And he had a slightly smart idea to hide inside the corn crops. But then they had a smarter idea and was like, well, we just gonna dust the corn crops. This is an actual working
Crop
crop
duster?
duster. So they did. And he was like,
Smoked them out.
like, keep your mouth covered, fool. That's why you're dying.
Right. What's the point of pulling out the handkerchief to cover your nose and mouth if you gonna every 2 seconds? Like, you might as well not have it. And the suit is still kicking. He's still rocking this gray suit.
That's when it got real dirty though, from the crop duster.
But yeah. Anyway, the movie ends terribly. And I found out Alfred Hitchcock again being I don't know what to call him, but I like it. I rock with him. It was a sexual innuendo because they get married at the end, and then
when
the train goes in the tunnel. He did it on purpose.
Oh, Alfred.
But yeah, so it's
something we never said was that Eva was working with the bad guys. And he met Eva. She was helping him find the bad guys. Turns out she was working with the bad guys. Then turns out she was actually a spy.
Double agent.
Yeah, she was working for the good guys. They were just gonna let Roger take the fall for it so that their agent didn't get found out, aka Eva. They were like, well, don't nobody know we're involved in this still, so let's just see how this plays out.
Right.
So they're watching everything happen along the way to him. I'm pretty sure he lost his job, and he was already single, so he didn't lose anybody that way. His mama already didn't care about him. Yeah. But he on the run, can't go anywhere without being recognized, and they were just like, it's not our people. But then when she did start being affected by it, they were like, I guess we'll help a little bit. So yeah, we forgot to tell y'all that part.
Right. But yeah, everything was going good, and then the Mount Rushmore thing, like, she's dangling on the edge, and he's like, the camera is showing from his point of view of trying to reach to grab her, and he's like, come on up, and then it does this transition to the train car, and he finishes his sentence like Mrs. Thornhill.
Yeah.
And they're both in white. We're led to believe they just got married, and then they start to lean back in the bed, and it transitions to the train going into a tunnel. Credits roll, and I was like, "What just happened?" I was good up until the movie ended, like, just abruptly, and I was like, "What just happened?"
Right before then, though, he did say previously she said something to him, like when they very first met, and he was like, "Is that a proposition?" And so he said something to her while she's still hanging off the cliff. And she asked him, was that a proposition? He was like, it's actually a proposal. And then all of that happened and they're married. So it was the fastest love I've ever seen. They've known each other about not even 2 freaking weeks.
2 freaking weeks.
And they're married now.
All right.
They barely had a dating stage.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So, all that being said, what would you rate North by Northwest, and should it be on the 1001 movies you must watch before you die?
Well, my thoughts on the movie.
My bad.
Are I really, really liked some of the camera angles that they used.
Yeah.
I was like, well, like, instead of transitioning sometimes, like, it's still a transition, but it wasn't like an effect. They just literally like move the camera a certain kind of way to make it into a transition. I was like, that was pretty cool. I like that kind of stuff. I like the storyline of it, but it could have had a little bit of work done to it at the same time. I did not like how Cary Grant stood. I told him, I was like, why is he standing like that all the time? Like, he had the Steve Urkel pelvis out stance going on, and the high waist pants were not helping that out. I know the high waist pants was a style of pants back then, that wasn't the problem. It was him fully lunging his pelvis forward, knees bent. It had to be from the way his pelvis was sticking forward. It was weird. He was almost shaped like those grasshopper cricket looking bugs off of Men in Black. He was sticking out like that in the front. It was like, what are you doing with your life? But aside from that, I like the movie.
Oh,
And it didn't feel like it was that long either.
remember she said she was 26?
Yeah.
And we were like, 26?
She's like, I'm Eva Eva Kendall. I'm 26. I'm like, 26? I honestly thought she was at least 40. For realsies.
You saying at least 40 made it seem like she older for. Like, I thought she could be.
I thought she was 40, 45. So that's at least 40.
I thought she was like late 30s.
Well, I still thought she was at least 40.
Anyway, she was 34
Older
at the time
than
of film.
20.
But I was like, man, that's a huge age gap because I don't know how old Cary Grant was supposed to be, but I'm looking at Cary Grant, I'm like, you at least 40, 45 minimum or whatever, right? And I was like, 26, 45. I was like, you got what kind of daddy issues you got? Because look,
on both sides,
like them together was just like, I don't see.
Well, that's like Mr. Van Damme too.
Well, he rich. I can see that she's like, that's a sugar daddy thing. That's like, I'm just for the money. But she didn't know this dude. Well, we didn't think she didn't know this dude. Turns out she did, being a double agent and all. But I was like, first glance, you just like, ooh la la, yeah.
Ah, oui.
But anyway,
I would rate this movie, North by Northwest, 3.5 Cowboy Ninjas out of 5. And I don't feel like it needs to be on the 1001 movies you should watch before you die. I didn't see that much. Like, though I did comment on the set, like about the trees. I was like, I wonder how they designed this set, because it looked like they were among real trees, but it turns out they were among real trees. Like, you could tell the background wasn't real, but the trees that they were going through looked really real. So I was like, that's interesting. And then the Mount Rushmore part looked really good. You could tell it wasn't real, but it did look good. So, but I wouldn't say it was anything groundbreaking at the same time. So I stick with, I don't think it belongs on the list. Yourself, your thoughts, your ratings, your feelings.
I too would give it 3.5 Cowboy Ninjas out of 5. I liked it. Almost really liked it. I probably would have really liked it. That ending. I'm telling you, a bad ending will just
You can get down to a 1 sometimes.
take the wind out of my sails. I tell you. I'm talking about you, Deliverance. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, it was, like I said, the spy stuff was cool. The mystery of like what's going on, because it just thrust you into it. Like, there's no opening scene of like a spy type of situation, and then you see where the miscommunication lies. It's literally him talking to his secretary, telling her his schedule or whatever, and she's like, hurry up, you got to get to your bar meeting. And he goes to the bar, and then he forgets he has to call his mom about something, and he gets up, and these 2 goons grab him, and then boom, we're there. And now we're trying to figure out, who's this George Kaplan, what does he know, and all of this yada yada. I liked all that. Like she said, there was some cool camera angle shots and transitions. We know we like Hitchcock for that type of stuff. I really like that aerial shot at the UN, like I said earlier. And even though it was a 3-hour movie, it didn't seem like a 3-hour movie, which is, we've talked about before. It's always great. I don't want a 3-hour movie, but if you're gonna make me watch a 3-hour movie, make it snappy. Make it not drag out where I'm looking at my watch the whole time. But I wouldn't make nobody watch this. I wouldn't be like, man, you ain't seen North by Northwest. You bugging. So I'm gonna say it doesn't deserve to be on the list. Sorry, not sorry.
We
But
still love you, Alfred.
yeah, we still rock with you, Alfie. What do you call him? AH.
Sure. Sounds like something I'd say.
But you know, we watched it on Tubi. You can find it on other streaming platforms as well.
But if you want to watch it
But
for
if you want to
free,
watch it for the freeness,
a
for free
Tubi.
$9.99,
With a whole bunch of ads.
right?
It might be 2 hours long without the ads.
But if you have seen North by Northwest, put it in the comments. What do you think about it? How terribly wrong do you think we are about what we said? Feel free to say that type of stuff. And
But not rudely, please.
right,
Because we will clap back at you.
we all got our opinions. There's gonna be stuff on this list that a lot of people love, and we're not, and vice versa. I know I've kind of perused through the list. I know there's stuff on there that I'm like, I do not like this movie. I've seen it before. And there's stuff on there that I'm like, man, I really like this movie. And I know that it's gotten like a low IMDb score, but you know, whatever.
He's like that for some reason.
You know, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Different strokes for different folks. So I ain't told about it. You shouldn't be either. But that doesn't mean you can't voice your opinion
Politely.
politely. So we will continue this journey down 1,001 movies you must watch
Before you die.
if you see the 2020 edition, because they change it every year, just like Guinness Book. So if you see the 2020 edition, we put the link down in the description, and you see something on the list that you want to see us watch before we actually, you know, pick it ourselves.
I thought you were going to say before we actually die.
No.
Like, jeez. Too far.
You can drop it in the comments, and then we'll watch it and shout you out for it. But yeah, other than that, we are done here. You got something else to say?
Yes. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a huge thumbs up. We would really appreciate it. Share it with your friends and colleagues, family, if you feel like they would like it. And if you don't feel like they would like it, if you want to talk about us with them as a group, do it that way. Share it along with everybody else and have a good old laugh at us. We would appreciate that as well.
We would.
Please subscribe if you are really feeling us. We are getting back our momentum. We started off the year strong, had a little bit of a lull. We're finishing strong. But we still somehow have more videos than we made last year.
Which is sad.
But thank y'all for watching. We appreciate you. And again, comment down below your thoughts on this review as well as this movie if you've seen it or if you plan on watching it. Darling.
This has been another episode of Tatum.
Brown. Jealous?